All right, welcome everybody. We're going to get started here. Welcome to StormCon and the NMSA public meeting. Is it? Can you? I don't know, is there a volume on this?
It should be on, but maybe it has to be polished and switched off. You just have to, I don't know, speak louder or hand up.
All right, thanks everybody. We're going to get going here. Welcome to the NMSA public meeting. My name is Scott Taylor and I'm the chair of NMSA. We got about an hour and a half of incredible entertainment planned for you. So, uh-oh, I messed it up. Yeah. Okay. So that was the introduction. And just to let everybody know, this is being recorded and it's going to be on our YouTube channel, and it's used, I think, by the Department of Defense to extract confessions out of people.
Clearly.
They play it over and over. Us talking about stormwater. All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit today about some of the NMSA governance and really where we're going to get into the meat of it. And I think the interesting stuff is going to be we get rid of this. I just like minimize it. Yeah, I don't know how to. This guy?
Yeah.
Oh, now it's gone.
Right.
Okay.
I'll do it. You talk. I'll talk. Okay. Go back to that slide. Go back here.
Yeah, just go back. Oh, the agenda. Yeah, there we go. So we got regulatory policy and legislative updates, which I'm just going to do some really interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now. And some of the NMSA initiatives and programs that we have going as well, we'll talk about. I'm going to cover, this will be mostly Seth. I'm going to be covering then some of our long-term objectives that we're working on for NMSA. And then we have our Vice Chair, Jamie, who's going to come up and talk about the new EPA Centers of Excellence, which is a really cool thing that's happened this past year. All right, so just some quick highlights of the state of the organization. Our stormwater testing and evaluation of products and practices step, which you're going to hear a lot more about today, is going strong now. It's officially launched and we're reviewing products there, so it's great. You're going to hear more, like I said, about the cold climate Centers of Excellence. That's an EPA grant that was actually passed by Congress, and then they also appropriated the money, which, I mean, miracles happen. That is a true miracle, yeah. And we also have an LMS system, learning management system, and I think Seth's going to talk a little bit more about that too. But we've started offering full training for MS4s through that. And we're going to be talking a little bit about the National Leadership's Coalition for Stormwater. It's a joint effort between NMSA and American Rivers, an NGO, and it's going to involve everybody. So it's the stormwater sector trying to get together and generally just improve the enterprise. How can we improve the MS4 program going forward? NMSA this year has met with, we had our policy forum back in April, and then following that, I had some meetings with congressional members and offices as well as EPA. And then you can see some of the things that we're doing yet to be done and working on. Just wanted to introduce you to the NMSA board. We have Seth Brown. You're going to hear a lot from today. Our executive director, I accepted as the chair, officially representing the Water Environment Federation. And Jamie, you're going to hear more about, hear more from later on the cold climate centers and the EPA grant instead of their vice chair. Not with us today, Carolyn Smith, Lori Lawson, John Rial, and Jessica Schultz, as well as I can do some all board members. But with us today, we have Lulu, Dickie, right there in front, wave. And then we also have a little Stellar. So thank you guys for being here in person. And yeah, that's our board as it stands right now. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Seth now to talk a little bit more about the state of membership. One of the exciting things is Seth put a ton of work in on our website to allow you to join easily, to pay easily, and then in the future get pestered easily when your membership expires. So let's talk about it.
All right.
Nothing is heavy, by the way. You might want.
Yeah, no, I'll just yell. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm Seth Brown. I'm the executive director. And yeah, I see some phones out. Hopefully these QR codes work. If they don't, let me know so I can change my slides to be accurate. But like Scott talked about, we're trying to make everything as easily accessible online as possible. Most folks can't come out to national conferences, so we want to make sure that we are as accessible with our services as we can be online. That's really the goal. So these are some examples where we're hoping to have hundreds or thousands of MS4s join us, and I'll explain how we're doing that. But this is really what we're talking about here. We've got 26 state organizations. That's really the heart of the organization. We started out with about 5 or 7 state organizations, and we've grown to 26. The total network of MS4s in those 26 states is about 4,400, so that's over half the regulated universe. Our goal is to have an MS4 organization in every state, all 50 states. That's one of our stated goals, and we're doing pretty well for only being 6 or 7 years old or whatever we are. So anyway, if you want to get more information about our membership, use one of these QRs, or if you just want to join, you can join online using your credit card. It's all secure and all that stuff. Just go to MS4 memberships. Also, we have a booth 533 downstairs in the exhibit hall. It's the first time we've had a booth. These QR codes are available there too. So if you don't get it here, you can get it at that point. So these are the organizations, not all of them. This is as many as we could get on a slide. Folks who are state organizations members, or we have our STEP members, and I think those are all of our STEP members, I believe. We'll talk more about the STEP program. I don't know, how many folks have heard about the STEP program? Okay, so most people, okay, good, but there have some that haven't. And then we have what are called affiliate members. That's everyone else. That's consultants, it's other nonprofits, which we don't have listed up here, but National Stormwater Center, for instance, they are our member for the affiliate membership program. But we also have like a law firm, BB&K's law firm, that's active in the stormwater space. So anyway, so if you want to join, please go there. It's how you can get all the details on how to do it and what the benefits are and all that stuff. As far as, again, these are all the different membership types. This is what the membership page looks like. We just launched Monday. So we have all these different options on the left-hand side over here. Just go down here, you can look and see exactly what the context for those memberships are, what the benefits of each of them are. And if you have any questions, let us know. Again, so affiliate members, 500 for nonprofits, 1,500 for private entities. These are annual fees. There's still space up here if you want to. All right. And then state organizations, again, we're looking to fill out the rest of the country. So if you're in, I don't know where, Missouri, we don't have a Missouri member, for instance. We'd love to find the right organization in that state. So if you're from Missouri and let us know, or just join if you can. And we have also what's called an emeritus membership program. And emeritus members are folks who are recently retired or semi-retired. We're losing a lot of institutional knowledge. And there's still a lot of people who've got a lot of passion for stormwater, and they want to continue on. You don't pay for that. This is just getting involved, and this is continuing on doing the work you want to do. So that's what the emeritus membership is about. As far as MS4 members, we're really trying to focus on growing in this area. If we're going to sustain and grow, it's going to be by having MS4s join us directly. There's been a lot of interest, and we've got almost 30 MS4s that have joined us up to this point. So you can see where we are. We're concentrated in some areas, but we're also spread out throughout the country. But as far as joining, if you're an MS4 or you represent an MS4, and you're in our state network, one of those 26 states, you get a membership, or you get a discount for the membership. There's an option to join as an individual MS4, or phase 2s and non-traditionals can join in groups to get additional savings. So there's an economy of scale that way. There's a lot of groups that, you know, especially phase 2 MS4s that kind of work collectively, right? So 10 or 12 or 20 or 50 or whatever can join all at one time. And there's one point of contact. So there's one transaction for multiple MS4s. It just makes it easier that way. We also have, for the first time, the ability for MS4s to join the STEP program. It's called the STEP and NMSA combined membership, because once you join STEP, you're also getting a NMSA membership as well. So just so you know how to join, what we're about, I'm not going to go through this whole list, but these are the types of benefits you receive. And this is all articulated on the webpage, on our membership page, so you don't have to memorize this now, but we're starting MS4 committees, for instance. That's something that's new, and we're starting that out. We have an online social network as part of our new website, and those have the ability to have these kind of group or forums or committees, whatever you want to call them, focused on different things. So when you join up as an MS4, you're actually asked which committee you'd like to be part of and join. So we're trying to get more involvement that way. We're doing this in response to what we hear as a need in the sector, or a desire in the sector, to have committees focused on specific topics that are only populated by those who are running an MS4 or work for an MS4. That's really what that's about. So we also have started a free membership, which sounds really stupid. I understand. How do we make money off of free membership, right? The idea is for folks to join on board, reduce any or eliminate all barriers, and be part of the network. And the hope is that you'll see the value and eventually join. That's the idea there. And again, we just launched this yesterday, and we already have a number of communities that have joined on our free membership option. You get fewer benefits, but you do get some benefits. But basically, you get to be part of this network that we're starting to grow and establish. And it's going to be worth more and more as we go forward. So anyway, again, when you go to the membership page, it's the very last option, but it's still an option to join as a free MS4 member. There's still spots available. We're back there, yeah. Okay, I want to talk about bulk training. This is something that we've launched recently as well. It's been around for a little bit, but we're launching it in a bigger way right now. This is really for non-technical staff, meaning it's not like high-level training. This is the basic training for different, good housekeeping type of stuff. We're doing this because, again, this is something where we can have cost savings, have it available online. Having bulk really reduces the cost per trainer oftentimes. This gives us a learning management system, a platform for our own material. We're going to update this as time goes on as well. Hey, Michael, how you doing? And so anyway, that's what we're targeting. Things like IDD. Well, I'll talk about this. So these are the different topics that are offered in our bulk training. The IDD up there, that's really the one there's a lot of popularity for that. So we've got an option for just getting that, and that's a different price point. Or you could get all the training content if you want to. If you want to check this out for free, you can check it out for free. Just send us an email. Send me an email. You can check it out before you pay. You hit the pay button. So, and this is the price point. So you can get it as a per learner, or you can get it in bulk. So if you got 300 people and you're going to train them all, that can be a lot more cost effective if you buy bulk as an example, or maybe 400 people, something like that. So there's the IDD only, like I said up front or at top, 32 to 35 per person, or 62 to 65 if you get all the content, and then you get a free NMSA membership as part of that as well. So, and there's also a bit of a discount for MS4s that are located in our state network. So again, so you can scan on that code, and this code is also available downstairs at our booth. So if you don't get to it now, you can get to it later. And these are just so you know, if you're an MS4 thinking about, well, is anyone else doing this? Yeah, we've got 16 communities right now that are into this. And Odessa, Texas just joined recently. So you're not the first one in. And there's been a number of these communities have been using this content for a number of years. So they're repeat customers. So anyway, just so you know. And again, this is the code. If you're interested in that, feel free to scan it now. If again, if you don't catch this now, you can go downstairs and check it out at our booth. So or let me know, or go to that URL, all sorts of ways. Okay, so I want to talk about some regulatory policy, legal, legislative. There's been a lot going on in this world. So we're going to spend some time talking about this. I'm going to start with the legislative priorities. We have been, we were involved with what we refer to as the our National Stormwater Policy Forum. We've done this for 8 or 9 years now, something like that. This is part of Water Week. This is a half-day event in Washington, D.C. It's when folks fly in and get involved. You can also engage online for free, at least up to this point. And those are the 3 areas that we focused on in our legislative asks. There's a spot, Megan, over there. Yeah. So that would, we had the highest attendance we've ever had in person and online. I think we had 150 or something online, and we had 80 to 100 in the room itself, which is, it's great. So please join us for that. We also met with a greater number of officials, congressional staff, and officials and committees than we've ever done in the past. And that actually was on hold for a little bit because of COVID and whatnot. That kind of slowed things down. But we had a small but a significant group that was going around meeting with these different folks, the appropriations committees in both the Senate and the House, and also the key committees for stormwater, which is the Environment and Public Works Committee on the Senate side, as well as Transportation Infrastructure side, on the House side, the Water Resources Subcommittee. I know that folks might say, well, what does it matter? There's not much going on in Congress, and I understand all that, but we need to have, being at the table is important. Answering questions that they might have is important. When they frame legislation, a lot of them don't know what stormwater is. Most don't know what stormwater is, or they think they do and they misunderstand it. So it's our job to try to provide some technical input about this is what it is, this is what it's not, and these are the critical issues. So we have a handout that we produce as part of the policy forum, and that's provided to you. So when you walk around, you've got something to read from, you have something to leave behind. Need to get more and more people involved. We had more last year than we have in the past. So this year, we need to have even more than we had last year. And it's April 13th this year. Is that what it is? April 13th. So it's usually in April. This year's at April 13th. So something to just keep in mind. We need to get more and more people involved, please. So there's other things that are going on since that time, or other priorities that we're tracking. One example is PFAS. This is obviously becoming fast becoming a critical issue in all sectors, including stormwater. So we're part of what's called the PFAS Passive Receiver Coalition, which basically it's the groups of, it's primarily in the water sector where we don't generate PFAS, but we transport it. And as a transporter, not just us, we're talking about wastewater as well as drinking water utilities, we're on the hook because PFAS is now toxic, right? So that means it falls into the CERCLA world. And in that context, we can be, public entities can be dragged into third-party lawsuits via CERCLA. We've been asking, not just we, the coalition, we've been asking for some type of coverage from that. We don't generate PFAS. Why should we be dragged into it, right? So those who generate it, that should be dealing with it, because the liabilities are going to be massive as this moves forward, I think, right? EPA says that's not our intention. They've told us, but they can't. There's nothing. Their hands are tied. It's this. The law is the law. So it has to change at the congressional level, and that's what's going on right now. So there's legislation right now that's on the, you can see it right there, HR 1267, that's associated with that. We're going to, I think we should have a webinar this year to dig into this more. I know that there's folks in the room who know much more about that than I do, so we'll get the experts involved to tell us what this is about and where we're going. But that's a big issue. So that's a legislative priority. Also, the Clean Watershed Needs Survey, it's something the EPA does supposed to be every 4 years, but it's been every 10 years recently. But the more that there's an investigation done about the needs in this sector, regardless of where it comes from, we see more and more needs for stormwater. And so this is an example where we had, and I think we will cover it here, but this is a good thing for the stormwater sector to have more investment in the Clean Watershed Needs Survey. That's a state-by-state survey of the needs in the clean water sector. So that's something else we push for. The EPA stormwater is excellence. It's a very small amount that we have right now. we need to expand it significantly, and we're gonna do that. You'll hear more about that from Jamie in a second. There are even things like stormwater credit trading. There's legislation on that that's going on. There's some legislation that's coming that's being developed right now on tax credits, potentially based upon like framed from the solar sector about on-site private property investments. Could you get a federal tax credit? That could be a game changer in many ways. So those are the kind of things that we track and we're involved with as well. On the policy side, of course, funding is always something that we're always pushing for on many different facets. We could go on for days about that. Technical assistance is available through EPA, but it's not really readily available through, especially for stormwater. It's really focused for wastewater and drinking water. A lot of what we do is trying to say stormwater matters too, regardless of what effort we're talking about. And that's another example is, I already talked about PFAS, technical assistance, water, waters the US rulemaking is ongoing. You might say, well, it's okay. How does that tie in? Well, that's a huge thing because we're looking to try to get provisions in the waters as they do their new rulemaking, which they're going to do, or they're in the process of starting to do that, to make sure that waters that stormwater facilities are exempted or exceptions from waters of the US. That's really important. It was not in the last rulemaking, which we pushed for, but we hope that it's going to be in this one. So that's why we have to be at the table to have to represent stormwater's interest, the stormwater sector interest. So I mentioned the Clean Watershed Needs Survey, something that we supported. A lot of others have supported as well. And I just wanted to highlight this is why it's important, because the last one that was done in 2012 and then 2022, so the 10-year gap, there was an increase of over 365% of identified stormwater needs. That's why it's important to invest in things like this. But a lot of this happened because we complained to EPA for years. All this is about wastewater. Why not stormwater? And so they really made a great effort, and a lot of people were part of this. It wasn't just us, but we were part of it. And these are the benefits. The more that we do more and more investment in these surveys and information gathering, the more that we uncover, boy, there's some significant needs out there. So there's a really good dashboard. If you ever want to dig into this, you can look state by state, different types of needs out there, different parts of the water sector. You can find out more information there. We also had our highest level ever political engagement just in May of 2025 with this new administration, was the Deputy Assistant Administrator for the Office of Water at EPA. Peggy Brown is her name. Oh, there's two W's, so it's really just one W. But anyway, so we had a great meeting with her office. We had members from all these different states that were part of that discussion, and we covered these things, what I just talked about: funding, technical assistance. Permit improvement is something that we also, there's MS4 program has been around for a long time and hasn't changed much. Can we modernize that? There are things that are duplicative or they're not very productive to do. So we talked about that. We also talked about, again, focusing on the centers of excellence and also the STEP program and third-party verification programs. And the things that they said, we want to have a follow-up on STEP. So we have a new meeting on that, which is great. And they wanted to hear more details. What should we improve in the MS4 program and the permits? What specifically? So on that front, we have gone through the exercise of developing, I think there are 9 or 10 items. I think it's 9 items of specific areas where we think that there can be improvements in the MS4 permits out there. You can go to this website. We just set this up yesterday, so please feel free to go there or scan that QR code again. And for each one of these, we're asking, do you agree with, and there'll be specifics about these topics. Here's a specific change that we're requesting or considering. Like someone should look at this and think about ways to have more flexibility in monitoring and program reporting, for instance, as an example. So you can agree or disagree. You can also provide your own input, both per topic and at the very end of this, you can put in anything else you want. So we're going to use all this feedback to go back to EPA and say, this is what we've heard from the sector. So we're going to be talking about this for the next month or 2 at least, so we can get a lot of feedback from the sector and then go back to EPA and say, these are the ways that we can improve the permits out there to be more effective and more cost effective. So please engage. This is really important. This is the kind of stuff that we're trying to do to move things forward. This is like MS4 2.0. You think about it. So again, there's a QR code down at that same QR code is available down at our booth, so check that out. On the legal side, there's been a lot going on. I'm not going to get into details because there is already some great content here at StormCon. that you guys should check out. But there's, you know, the folks who cover this, the Chevron doctrine that was overturned could be significant. I don't think we really know what the repercussions, but this is basically taking the legs out from under a lot of regulatory agencies and their power. And we may see some chaos. There's going to be different courts ruling different things. We no longer are going to have the consistency that we've had in the past. We don't know what's coming next, really. There's a lot of details here I won't get into, but if there's any questions, we can talk about it. But there's a lot of other things, not just the Chevron doctrine, but that was huge. That was massive when that changed. But there's these other things that have been going on for the last couple of years. Corner post versus the Board of Governors, for instance, that talks about how far back can you go to get impacts or to get repercussions of impacts from changes in regulations. How can, you know, it's a very limited statute right now. It can go back much further. Again, we could go into details on this. We shouldn't have time right now. In Hawaii, in the Maui versus Hawaii Wildlife Fund, this has to do with underground discharges. If you discharge to groundwater and then it goes out to waters of the U.S., how is that handled? Waters of the U.S., you guys heard about this. So there's a lot going on. I think but the most significant, though, to our sector, especially most recently, is this Supreme Court case, the city and county of San Francisco versus EPA. Arguments were heard last October, and they came out with the ruling in March. And basically, the question was, can you use narrative language in your permits and some other specifics? We could get into that too. But we were asking, are narrative limits even possible? Is this going to impact MEP? So we had a discussion on that. This is one of the things that we did, and we didn't know it was going to come out in March. We thought it was going to be a little bit later. We actually did this on February 28th. Like 3 days before or 4 days before they actually came out with the ruling, which is bad timing. But anyway, so you can go check that out here. It's on our YouTube channel. If you want to hear people opine, we had some really smart lawyers talking about what they think is going to happen. But this is what eventually ended up happening on a 5-4 vote. And the dissent was delivered by Justice Barrett, which is interesting too. But the bottom line is that they struck down the use of end result limitations, you know, or receiving water bodies. So how that's going to play out, it's still in California. They're still trying to figure out how that's going to play out. So this is so new. We're still trying to understand what it is, but it's the bottom line. This may lead to more numeric requirements, looking at what exactly are you contributing, as opposed to looking at what are the water quality conditions of the receiving water body. So that means we need to focus more on maybe performance, what we're discharging specifically, as an example. And I talked about the Loper Bright or the Chevron ruling. Again, there's going to be a chaotic landscape. So there's a lot going on. I won't get into it here, but I would go to check out our track or our session here in this room tomorrow at 11 o'clock to learn more about that. To hear from smarter people than me talking about this. So but this is why we are out here trying to exist, to show what's going on, to let everybody know what's important to the stormwater sector. So we're trying to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on. So I talked about a little bit about the Stormwater Centers of Excellence. NMSA is part of the Cold Climate Center of Excellence for Stormwater Infrastructure Technology, or CCCIT, I guess you'd say. I don't know, Jamie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, these are the kind of things we're working on. This is University of Minnesota, University of New Hampshire. Jamie's going to talk about it, so I won't get into it too much. And we're just getting going. We have about 1.5 years. May 2027 is when this has to be wrapped up. So it's a pretty crunch timeline. If you want to learn more, we're going to be in this room tomorrow. We're going to hear from all 4 Stormwater Centers of Excellence. That's what is it? That's Center for Watershed Protection in the Southeast coastal area. We've got the Desert Research Institute. Yeah. So the Southwest, we have the Southwest, Great Plains, the cold climate, and then the South Coast. Anyway, those people are going to be in this room at whatever time I said, 1:45 tomorrow. You can hear from everybody about what they're doing and who's involved and whatnot. We're also going to do a listening session on Thursday. So if you want to provide input and get more into this, that's over Sanibel, which I think is right over there. So get involved there. We're also launching, along with American Rivers, which is an NGO, the National Stormwater Leadership Coalition. And again, you can hear more about that tomorrow at 1 o'clock in this room. And then we're going to have a listening session as well at 10:30 on Thursday. But this is a way to bring together all the different groups that have some kind of interest in stormwater both on the NGO side as well as on the municipal side and the technical side too. So ASCE, APWA, NACWA, WEF, all of those folks. This is a way to bring these groups together that are sometimes at odds to try and find areas of agreement that we can go to the Hill. Because if you can go to Congress or go to EPA in greater numbers on both sides of this, these groups, then you can get a lot more done. And so there's a lot more common themes here than people might think is the case. So that's something, if you want to learn more about that, come to the session tomorrow. STEP, again, most people, some that they've heard about STEP, stormwater testing evaluation of products and practices. For those who haven't, this is our vision for a national testing and verification program specifically tailored to the stormwater sector. So you can think about it as the consumer reports for stormwater. That's kind of the elevator pitch that we've developed on this. So as far as, and this is associated with ASTM E64, which is the Committee on Stormwater Control Measures. This is something everyone should get involved with if you have got any kind of interest in stormwater. This is relatively new. It's only been around for maybe 3 or 4 years. We're focused right now. We've got a lab testing and a field testing subcommittee. So if you're in those worlds, you can get involved that way. We also have other. We have a non-point and we have other subcommittees too to get involved with. Specifically for STEP, we are developing testing standards. So we've finalized the trash capture testing. We've finalized hydrodynamic separators standards as well. All that is based upon the New Jersey program. And we're working, and the filter systems testing, all those performance testing standards are going to be completed, we hope, in the next 3 to 6 months. We're very close. We're also working on the TAPE program and taking the TAPE protocols from Washington State and applying those in the context of the STEP program. So as far as programmatically where we are, this is a multi-phase program. It's been around for a while. If you've heard about it, you're probably wondering, is this ever going to really happen? It is happening, actually. And we just launched our 3rd phase. So we're in phase 3 right now, just started in July 1. And we've got applications that have come in already. And for trash capture technologies, and we're starting to do what's called concurrence verification, which is testing that's been done in and verification that's been done in other programs that use our same performance testing standards. So you don't have to retest just for the sake of retesting. You can just submit something to us, and it's a lot cheaper and easier and quicker to get become part of the STEP program. So we're going to be doing that. We have one of those applications in, and we're going to be doing more of those in the future. So anyway, so if you want to learn more, go to stormwatertesting.org. That gives you all the information. You can become, again, a member of STEP as well through that as well. And as far as what's next, we're going to be developing technical guidance. Basically, there's all this great verified data, but how do you make it useful at the local level? That's missing in the sector right now. So that's part of the value add services that we're developing over the next, again, 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, something like that. And we're looking at how does performance vary by climate, by different types of conditions, particle size distribution, precipitation patterns, things like that. So there's other things that we're going to be doing. I don't know if we'll get to this in this phase, looking at long-term performance, for instance. That's obviously something that's very important, but we just need to get this up and running, and getting our governance set up is a big important thing. If you want to learn more, we're going to have presentations by Jay Holtz, who's right over here, and then Greg Williams, and then myself in this room again, 10:15 tomorrow, if you want to learn more about all of this. And again, if you want to join STEP, you can go online to our membership pages that I've talked about already. So those are the big programs that we're focusing on. We do have other things that we are closing, and they're also starting. For instance, we've been working with we're part of a team that received funds from the Water Research Foundation to look at stormwater reuse or stormwater capture and use. We're going to be finalizing that this October, and we'll be releasing this report to the world at that point, and we'll have a webinar in early 2026. It's pretty in-depth, covers funding and financing, it covers regulatory issues, it covers technical issues, but it's really comprehensive, so to be on the lookout for that. We just received grant fund a grant to focus on New Jersey workforce development, focusing on green infrastructure. So we're just starting that out. That's also the University of New Hampshire and Rutgers University is our partners in that. So. As far as things that are to be on the lookout for events and webinars in the near future, we have been focusing on Stormwater Day for I think 2 or 3 years now, and this year it's going to be on Monday, November 19th or 17th. This is just a celebration of stormwater professionals. We usually highlight somebody, the Stormwater Champion of the Year kind of thing. So we'll be doing that again, and this ties in with all these different types of stormwater awareness efforts that are ongoing. I know, like, I think there's Stormwater Awareness Week or something coming up in California, and that coincides with the CASPA conference, the California Stormwater Conference. So this is, we're doing this again. It's been, we've had a lot of folks. So what we do is we make information available. You guys can take it and download it as you want, use it. We also have a free webinar that we've done every year, and we'll do that again this year. We usually have 300 to 500 folks who join that, which is great. So. We've been supportive of the ASCE report card, this effort, and these are released every 4 years. These, it was released for the first time in 2021 and again in 2025, which is great that we didn't lose our grade. Our grade was terrible, but at least it was part of the report card. So that's something that we continue to focus on, and I think there's all the reason in the world to think that this is going to be something that is going to continue. I talked about our policy form, so I won't go on. This is some snapshots about what it's about, and we generate this, again, document that folks can look at that outlines some specific asks to Congress. So that's something, again, we'll do this year. It's April 13th that we said as well. So we do a number of webinars. It's been free in the past. I think starting this year, probably moving forward, it's going to be something you have to pay for unless you're a member. So that may not be it may not be free in the future. So we covered topics such as, I said, National Stormwater Day, but we had the Supreme Court rulings. We had biochar and stormwater as a topic, for instance. We're probably going to do one on PFAS and the impacts of the stormwater sector this year too. So anyway, you can go to our YouTube channel right now and get those available for free. I don't know if that's going to be the case in the future. One thing that just popped on our radar was from EPA on managing roadway stormwater assets. And this is not ours, but this is the kind of thing we pass along this information in our newsletter. So join our newsletter. You can see it's going to be headed up by Heather Goss with the US EPA. She knows a lot about this stuff. So it's something else to be aware of, and it's going to be, I guess it's September 17th, so in a couple of weeks from now. So something to be aware of. So with that, I'm going to pass this over to Scott Taylor. I'll move it forward if you want.
Learn my lesson. I'm not going to carry that thing around. All right. Thanks, Seth. And just for the record, I want to know that you're ahead of schedule. That's never happened.
Never happened
in the history of Seth speaking. Never happened. So you guys, this is it.
It's directly related to how many people are sleeping, though. That's all.
I'm going to call it laundry too. I just want to talk a little bit about long-term goals and objectives at NMSA. And Seth kind of already introduced part of this, but I wanted to go in depth just a little bit more. So in California, there's this house. It's called the Winchester House. It's in San Jose, California. You guys may or may not be familiar with that. It's where Sarah Winchester lived, like I think at the turn of the century. And there's a ton of myths about and legends about this house, but one of the unique and kind of weird things about it is that she just kept adding on to it throughout her whole life. And there was no master plan, there was no grand vision. It was just she kept building. You know, she was in theory supported by the Winchester Fortune Fire Company. And so you got these stairways that go nowhere, some doors and windows that don't open. The house is very maze-like because, again, there were just these additions made all along. And so that's my super perfect analogy for PA sport permit program. You know, this program is such a hit. Stormwater Day in this year started in 1990 when the first phase 1 permit came out. It's 2025. Some quick math: 35 years that we've had that initial blueprint, you know, that Congress laid out, Clean Water Act. this is material that changed. What's happened over the years is the states have kind of added on to it, right? We keep getting, you still have the core permit, then you have these other things that you still have to do. And nobody's ever gone back and looked at it and just said, okay, look, what did we learn since MERT, right? And it's been a lot. And what's working, what isn't, what, oh, sorry. What is, where's the efficacy in the dollars spent? So that's really what we've been talking to EPA headquarters a little bit about, this idea of maybe a stormwater 2.0. And so go to the next slide, Seth, real quick. So Seth already showed you this, and this is the way for, we're looking for fans and members to come and opine on this because we really do want to give national feedback to EPA. But I just wanted to give you a little bit more context about what we're talking about. A lot of this surrounds the 6 minimum control measures because that's the basis of the NPDES program, really. But the first one, standardizing public education and outreach. The idea, it's pretty simple in advertising that if you have a singular message that people hear over and over, it's going to have more impact. So why do we have, in California, we have dozens of different public outreach and education programs, and there's no singular message there other than, stormwater, and we want stormwater to be clean. So the idea behind this is to have a national type message that everybody would use. You could still customize it, but you would have this message that's national. I think, at least in my generation, this is going to date me, the Crying Indian about Keep America Beautiful, that was a hugely successful national campaign. Another example that really went kind of viral was Don't Mess with Texas. Again, it was a litter campaign, but it was statewide. So we're looking at trying to get that national type approach instead of having, right now, I don't know, there's, what is it? Permittees, there's like 7,500 permittees. Some states like Iowa do a really good job of having a single, public education outreach program. But like in California, that's all over the map. I bet you there's probably 7,000 different education outreach programs. Flexibility and public involvement of prevented activities. I think this was really important back at the start of this. Nobody knew, hey, why are we doing this? What's stormwater pollution? And so we had to get the public involved. Now, the ones that I've gone to where, we're putting out a new stormwater management plan and they have to do a public meeting, the consultants just talk to the other consultants at the meeting and you eat your own cookies. So, is this a good expenditure of funds still now that this program is 35 years on? Flexibility in IDBE programs. The feedback we've gotten on like illicit connections is that maybe east of the Mississippi, where the cities are a lot older, there are some cross connections and it's taken a while to ferret those out. But a lot of the stuff built west of the Mississippi is newer. I'll tell you, there's not many California cities that I know that are going to be full of cross connections because 50 years ago, most of them didn't exist. And they've all been under, public works permitting and inspection. So giving MS4s the flexibility to say, look, I don't need to look for cross connections because they just don't exist in my city and put that money elsewhere. Inspection and reporting, to have to inspect your storm drains, your storm drain conveyances for water quality doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think there's a lot of efficacy in that for the permittees. So eliminating some of that from the permits and again, focusing more on like BMP inspections and monitoring. In California, this is a big problem where the MS4s are asked to essentially, administer the industrial permit program. The cities are responsible for inspecting the industrial dischargers, and that includes construction sites under that as a subset. And it's a separate NPDES program. So if you need to pay for it, then up the fees and pay for it, but don't make the MS4s pay to administer that program. See if there's any other. Yeah, and if we're trying to push, at least we're trying to, get recognition for steps, some third-party program, because numbers are going to become a lot more important from now on. I mean, with the San Francisco Supreme Court case, the MEP, I think, has kind of run its course. People are getting tired of it. The old thing was it was more effort, please. And that isn't cutting it anymore because you just can't keep spending money and the goalposts just keep moving away. So we want some numeric assurances in this program. And that's tough to do in stormwater, but that's where we're heading with that. And then the last one is monitoring. I could go on about monitoring. Fundamentally the monitoring program hasn't evolved much since NERC. And we keep monitoring the same. I mean, people that run a monitoring program, here you monitor like 30 or 40 chemicals and proxies, and you kind of do that in a mass emissions way. And I can tell you what the TSS coming off of a clean, relatively clean parking lot is going to be. It's going to be 30 milligrams per liter or less, something like that. And the point is, we're not adding value with a lot of the monitoring we're doing now in these programs. And to then refocus or change the monitoring program, the real threat is coming from what's kind of, the term of art is emerging contaminants, right? We keep discovering these things, even though they're not really emerging and they're already there. So, but we're just finding them. So things like PFAS, MTBE was a big one in California a while back. It was leaking out of underground storage tanks. But these things are just emerging. But the fact is that there are literally millions of man-made chemicals in stormwater. And do we know what they are? No. Do we know what they do? No. Do we know what the synergistic effects are? No. It was really interesting back in the 90s. I was on a design build for a toll road, and we had the opportunity to craft our own monitoring program. And so we just thought to ourselves, gee, what do cars produce? And we decided that we would test to see if there was any platinum or palladium coming off of the roadway, because platinum and palladium are both in, catalysts for cars. And lo and behold, there was detected platinum and palladium in roadway runoff. And then we went to see what that means, and there was, at the time, it's the gold book for EPA. There was nothing in the gold book about platinum and palladium. We'd ever tested for it before. Nobody knew. There was no standards for it. Nobody knew if there was toxicity or anything. So that's the kind of thing in stormwater we're faced with, trying to keep the environment safe, but we're saddled with a monitoring program that really, at this point, adds no value. So those are the types of things. And I provide you with this context just because I want you to get you thinking about what is really moving the ball down the field in terms of keeping stormwater clean or making stormwater clean versus what is a bunch of stuff that you have to do to just check boxes, and it's really a big waste of your time. And we feel like if we can work with EPA to focus on the former and get rid of the latter, that's going to be a step forward. And then, what's that?
I was actually,
Yeah.
can I take a second? So I wanted to ask, we've, like you said, we've historically never been in the situation where we're ahead of schedule. So in order to get back into feeling like I usually do, which is behind schedule and overtime, I want to take this before we get into funding financing, ask if anyone has any thoughts or questions to share about what we're proposing here for these permits. I know this is a big issue, or big, this is a lot to ask, but if anyone has some initial thoughts, I mean, we can take a few minutes. I'd love to hear. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
but
I agree.
the goal, as you're thinking about a question, as you're formulating a question right now, I'm cueing you now to think about formulating a question. So as you're formulating your question, I just wanted to say that the point here is not for us to be antagonistic. We're not trying to push back regulations. We're trying to make them smarter. And some parts of it that don't make sense, some parts that make much more sense that we should be doing more of. Those are the kind of things we want to make sure that we're going to try to promote as we move forward, as we try to push for the modernization of this program, because it hasn't been updated for 35 years. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or opinions you want to share? There's a lot of opinionated people in this room. I know that that's the case. I've argued with many of you in this room, so I know that there's some opinions out there. Oh man, Jamie will go. And Jamie's going to talk in a second. Wait, hold on, wait for the.
So moving into weather sampling, that's kind of an area and a store that's tough. Right, dry weather sampling, I think we've had tremendous gains, especially in the east, maybe not in the west, but where we found all these cross connections. But moving to wet weather sampling, it's more difficult, obviously, and you know the question has always been, for what we know stormwater is dirty, when we look for, you know, a variety of pollutants in wet weather waste streams, find general. And so the question in my mind is always like, what is the purpose of that data? And is it our communities that are reporting, you know, kind of providing EPA with the or whatever the regulatory authority is. So, I mean, that's been, you know, something on our mind. It's difficult. Potentially the gains, the benefits pale in comparison to dry weather sampling. And so, again, going back to what's the purpose, like, and then to add one more thing onto that, typically these are done by volunteers or they're done with a range of test kits that, you know, the level of accuracy might be questionable. And then we're certainly not, like, when we do research, we follow a quality assurance. So I think most of the volunteers, municipal volunteers that are out there doing the sampling, probably, you know, the QC might be black. So, you know, if we're producing this data of questionable quality and we're finding all kinds of pollutants, like, what is the data going to be used for? Is the question. I think EPA has always said, oh, well, we're not interested in, you know, coming out with the municipality. We're looking at potential polluters. Right. And that's been the answer that we got. But it's still potentially dangerous. These outfalls are in, you know, hazardous locations, and you know, everything else that I said has been a question that we've had and might make your list. And we relapse from what they're saying.
That's what I was going to say. Is that all under the monitoring?
Yeah, I think that'd be a monitoring thing.
I just want to make sure that that's, I understand.
There's one pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm old. I've been involved with stormwater since 1988. And then, you know, I'm training cadets and doing all running events and stuff on other areas in 1990. And I have a long history of sample lot of alligators 3 times. So I did industrial land municipal, but I have a couple of questions, a couple of comments. I hate animal testing. Okay, I think that BMPs are absolutely wrong. Okay, and BMPs are the, I have many companies on BMPs and BMP work. Okay, get them in. But sampling is a waste of time and money, and endangered are. Anyway, there's lightning, I had sampled every, I did the Ashland Hill spill cleanup, and we sampled every week, and lightning and thunder is not fun. All 16 hours. Anyway, but some sampling I hate, these I love, got a lot of experiences, we know 14.7 and 14.7.
This is your chance. We're all in this together.
And my kids write for plans and stuff. When I look at them, sometimes they have nothing in them. There's like no detail at all, nothing at all. I like cities in Louisiana. I'm considering them. Anyway, a lot of them are very big, especially the small. But again, EMPs, testing, it works in industrial, works in and municipal, salmon alcohol waste of the pond. Okay, you can always manipulate that. And, I think, you try to make sure you get the best results for your client, whoever they are, but the fact is that you don't do it for these results. And sometimes the results are just wrong because there's no rain. You know, it's rain in 6 months. It's very, not in some ways. But anyway, moving away from animal, moving towards more PMPs, I can't say anything that I'm going at, I'm not experiencing this. And I just want to sign on again in America.
Sounds good.
Bye.
All right.
All right,
You're up. Thank you very much.
I work with like 10 states.
One more than that. Yeah, anybody else? I don't know how I can get the microphone, you know it. Oh.
So, coming off what Steve was talking about in Livermore. I'm a strong believer of BNBs myself, and again, the BNBs are performance based. Like I said, they're not being maintained, they don't work. And without actual testing, how do you know if they're functioning, if they're doing their job? They go hand in hand. And I've done this firsthand. I mean, I'm born and raised in Florida. I live in South Florida. Those you don't have Florida on your list.
I know, I'd like to. I know.
Product here is so weird. I mean, Panhandle, Jacksonville, same, and we got basically the same lay of the land as Georgia, Alabama, and the Michigan. You come further south, you got it down on the land. And it was the last of the rolling hills, and once you get past the land, we flat.
Right.
Where's the hill?
Some sheep.
Have you seen the hill? I haven't seen it.
Yes, they are.
Oh, thanks.
So they ski there. You come sheep float.
Yeah. Right.
You know, a lot of the sheep floats are around come down to us. But that brings up my point. I love where FDP, like, around county with stakeholders. Well, wait, how did that be stakeholders? Excuse me, my language. Oh, this is polluting when I'm not producing. It's running down to me. But you're asking me to clean it up. That's right. So I believe BMPs can put in place. And certain BMPs are put in place to stop that sheet flow from reaching, the next stakeholder. And you handle your own, then it should work. Somehow or another, somebody needs to get on the same page. I can tell you right now, firsthand, Florida Department of Environmental Protection. I'll tell you right now, they're TMDO department, they're VMAT department, NPDS department. And none of them know, neither one of them know what the other do.
What about the new regulations? How's that going to change things?
A lot. I mean, it's actually a lot. Actually, our new permit, we was screaming for our new permit, new NPDS permit, we was screaming. I've been 4 months into site, basically 9 year, into my 9th year of my site 4 permit, which is only supposed to be a 5-year permit.
Right.
And then they just came to audit me, and they don't like the way I did my year 7 report, and I'm in the process of putting my year 8 report together. And it's like, if you were finding with it the 6 years before that, you wanted me in year 2, those changed. But now you got a problem, because I've got to hit the audit. I got somebody who didn't say, I don't like to read.
Right.
I said, it ain't working. So, maybe for the new permit issue. And that's exactly what I told my boss. I told him, I said, the problem is that the young lady that I've got auditing me right now, she's auditing me based on that new permit. I'm sorry, but you can't change the rules. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game.
Right.
I'm still reporting based on the old. Can't change the rules until you give me the new permit. And then their answer to me was, well, they're like, we're gonna be ready when the new permit gets issued, so we're gonna be ready, how we want the new permit. But in the meantime, like, well, you're changing the rules.
Yeah.
So, thank you. It's going to fall.
So if you can help us get Florida Stormwater Association to join, I'd love that. So we are missing Florida. It's not because we don't care about Florida.
Oh, yeah.
No, so you talked about upstream impacts to downstream communities, right?
And how do we know if we don't do testing or analytical monitoring? How are we going to know whether BMPs are performing? And that's one of the things that we think about in the STEP program, is that this could be a third way to think that go out and analytically test all these BMPs and outfalls. It's just an impossibility to do that, right? Just the logistics of it and the money, obviously, is just not. Maybe another way of doing that is to try to make sure that we have as much assurance that what we're putting in the ground has been verified in the performance to the degree that we can. It can't be perfect, but we're not doing much of that right now. Only in the MTD sector are we doing that. So we need to do that across more types of all the BPs, really. So that's the vision that we have to address kind of like these challenges, I think, weather monitoring and things like that. So, you have anything else?
Yeah, just real quick. First of all, I want to say that monitoring is one of the big ones that we're key on too. I think everybody puts these big, thick reports together, and nobody reads what we do. Right? Nobody reads them except for maybe an auditor every 4 years or whatever. And so, yeah, what are we doing this for? There's so many analytics that go into that. Hopefully they're useful to train AI large language models and something. I don't know. But nobody's reading it, so that needs to be fixed. And I've not a lot of love for monitoring out there, and I obviously support that. I mean, and this isn't the model, but one model could be that the state is responsible for monitoring receiving waters. Okay, and what they would do is look for problems in receiving waters, beneficial use impairments, because that's what we're really interested in, right? So what would they look for? Like, is the receiving water toxic? Are there chemicals that are bioaccumulating? Is it eutrophying? Basic things like that. And then tell the permittees, these are the problems in that receiving water, and provide a list of BMPs that they can, put out, something like that. A feedback mechanism that's run rather than just having us do manifest testing and do nothing with the feedback into the program. So something to improve the performance of monitoring is definitely needed. I'm not saying that we need to get rid of monitoring, because then we wouldn't know what's going on. But what we're doing now isn't telling us what's going on, isn't helping to inform and improve the stormwater program. So,
Do you want to wrap up and talk about funding? Thank you for that input.
yeah, thank you. Just really quickly on funding and financing. We know that this is a big one for MS4s. We haven't had the public funding that the program needs to really be successful. Part of that is PR, and that's one of NMSA's missions. That's why we got the ASCE infrastructure report card to include a separate stormwater category, because if the public doesn't understand what we're doing, they're not going to fund it. They're always going to vote to have another policeman or keep the library open as opposed to fund stormwater, because nobody knows what that's doing. So that's the first step. The second step is to try to work with the federal government to get more money like they did for water, wastewater. And we've got Dave Smith, he's an ex-EPA employee from Region 9 who's helping us with that, looking at trying to get the money from the SRF program that has been very biased to the wastewater community to feed more into the stormwater community. Also looking at other ways to improve funding at the level, helping communities in terms of engaging and developing assessment districts, things like that. But right now, again, mostly focusing on the state revolving fund and the associated programs with that to try to get a little more money flow into stormwater. So I think that's all I wanted to say. And
Yeah, Jamie. So we're going to wrap up by getting some in-depth information from Jamie Bull, who's heads up the Cold Climate Center of Excellence.
Yep, thanks.
You? Yeah, and I'm not going to talk for 30 minutes, so.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'll
I'll
yeah, I will say, if you're really interested in more in-depth details of the centers of excellence, we will have, I think, show that session in this room tomorrow at 11:15 maybe, or
11.
11.
It's 11, I think it's 11.
And all the centers will be here. So there are 4 centers that were funded. We're still actively lobbying for more dollars for the centers. I mean, Pacific Northwest doesn't have a center. Mid-Atlantic doesn't have a center. So There are still areas. Currently, the 4 centers are Center for Watershed Protection that does the Southeast Atlantic. The Cold Climate Center really is the upper tier. So we partner with the University of Minnesota to, I guess, address cold climate related issues. And then the Desert Research Institute, Nevada, and the Southwest has a center, and then Oklahoma has a center there, the Great Plains. So they'll all be here tomorrow. We've been tracking these centers since 2014, I believe, when it was first introduced into the legislation. And for whatever reason, during reconciliation, it was always taken out. So it was efforts like NMSA and WEF that really, this is a product of a lot of that water week and fly-in and constant asking and begging and pleading for dollars. And again, there's need for more. So like I said, there's good regional coverage, but there's some areas that were left out. And hopefully this is just a start. I think I just went over the centers that do exist. And then I just wanted to briefly update. Oh yeah, you put them all in, huh? Yeah, I don't want to talk. I'll talk about this tomorrow. So just wanted to briefly update what we're addressing in cold climate. And if you have any questions or any advice, or municipal officials that work, or permittees that work in cold climate areas, we have a technical advisory committee that's going to be generating a list of research priorities. So we'd be happy to add them to our technical advisory committee. Realistically, we have 3 main areas of work in our proposal. One is research. So we're going to be looking at a review of chloride reduction programs that are out there, as well as chloride reduction resources, and compiling that. And if you don't have a chloride reduction program and you're in a cold climate, we are going to develop a template that will help initiate that from the research and investigation that we do across the cold climate region about effective programs. The other bit of research we have going on is we're looking at bioretention soil media. So bioretention systems are probably the workhorse of the new structural controls for stormwater. And so we're going to be doing some research on the impacts of chloride loading, mainly to the absorption characteristics of the filter media. And then, like I said, technical assistance, we're going to be, that's one of the reasons why we partnered with NMSA, is to continue to get information out there, mainly assisting and helping with MS4 permit compliance. So we'll be adding our resources out there. And then collaboration. The hope is that these research centers kind of all collaborate, again, to promote the need for additional stormwater research and innovation. And so, that's definitely part of our program, is trying to develop a nexus of leadership. We know stormwater is a very regional issue, but there is a need on that national stage for promoting more funding and more resources dedicated to stormwater. So we're hoping that the centers will help advance that as well. I think that's, talk about everything. SALT training, and we'll go into more detail tomorrow as well. And we also have a listening session on Thursday for more opportunities to give direct feedback.
Does anyone have any questions? I know that there's been a lot of like, hey, what is Center of Excellence really doing? And we don't necessarily know all of it because it's just starting out, but does anyone have any questions about this or comments to make? I just, it's not a forum to air this.
You got 4, you would have.
Hold on a second. Hold on. See this thing?
One dog.
We have 4 centers now. You mentioned we get smaller, volunteer in your process. So I can see,
I'm getting more.
getting more out of University of Tennessee. It's not far from my back door.
Right.
They've got a pretty active stormwater program. All the stormwater testing and training for the state. So, we can push forward. Who would you need to talk to?
Yeah.
I got some thoughts, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, go. I mean, it's this stuff, right? It's a policy fly-in. We're constantly advocating for more funding. I mean, you know, we were hoping it would be $5 million a year. We got 5 million over 2 years. And the idea is that would be, you know, every year annual funding of 5 million. And the hope would be we could expand. So I don't know other strategies outside of, you know, lobbying I shouldn't say lobbying because I technically I can't. Advocating for inclusion in the Congress.
Yeah, because let me, I mean, the bill that's in front, don't have to use for.
Yeah. So for some context, you know, WEF started and others started talking about these centers of excellence back in 2011. That's how long we've been talking about this for 15 years, 14 years, whatever. I'm sorry? Donna Edwards, right? From Maryland, right? Prince George's County, right? Yeah, that's where it started. 2011, I think it's something like that. Yeah, exactly. The originators right there, Gary Bellin. So the point is it's been a long time coming. And we just getting it was a marker bill, which is like an individual bill that's usually wrapped up into a larger bill. That's usually stayed as a marker bill. I think typically, I don't think it was even wrapped up into anything, but it finally was the infrastructure bill, the large infrastructure bill. To Jamie's point, we asked for 5 centers funded at 5 million per year. I think that's what it was. For 25 million, we ended up with much less than that. So we gotta be, you know, we've been asking for it is my point. And there were 30 proposals. Tennessee was one of the proposals that went in that wasn't selected. So if you have 30 proposals and 4 that were selected, clearly there's a lot of demand, right? A lot of folks raising their hand, and there's been a lot of great research going on in like John Hathaway at Tennessee, or Bill Hunt in North Carolina State, and Rob Traver in Villanova that aren't part of these centers, frankly, and that are missing. Alan Davis from Maryland is another example. He's mentioned Mid-Atlantic. So the way to advocate for this is to become part of these policy groups. Also, just within TINSA, you're part of the Tennessee Stormwater Association. If you guys write a letter support to your Congress members, that's what they respond to. They respond to their own folks. They have to respond. They have it. So that's what I would suggest to everybody. If you see, hey, there's something, we're doing really good research in our state or region, they should talk to their Congress members. They can do that whenever. We try to provide forums to do that. So use our forums as well as your own. Just writing a letter still is effective.
Yeah, and the point is that it's an appropriation that needs to happen in FY 26.
Oh, that's
or 27. So those, the enabling legislation is already in place for these centers, but it means that Congress has to appropriate money to build a law. They don't. But this is just, we just need an appropriation in FY 26 to continue the good work these centers are doing. And that's why your letters would be really good at that. The legislation is in place, the money is in.
So it's reauthorization is what we're doing. Yeah. So if you want to talk about it, but what I'm thinking to set up the discussion is reauthorization of these. So like you said, it's a lot easier to continue a program than to set up a program. And that's what we're talking about. And expanding an existing program is a lot easier than so. But there's a lot of urgency and time because we're running out of time. So I'm sorry, Gary.
No, I was just gonna say when first time we just come after trying to figure out the work we've done this.
And this is Gary Bellin of American Rivers. I'm sorry.
Very well, American Rivers, working in great infrastructure stormwater since well, a long time. And one of it is just giving voices to representatives know that this is an important thing, and we need to expand it. They're saying that there's clearly a lot of demand, a lot of times you're not hearing it. So I think, and we sat on, David and I, in a session tomorrow, talking about how we develop and show leadership on these issues, so we can actually drive more agenda. I mean, things aren't changing much, they're hearing from all of you. So if we have one on, Scott was saying, it's a message, we can kind of drive everybody around that. More likely to get more hundreds of excellence, get more attention made.
The other, not that we have to take up all the time, I just feel guilty by not going to the time.
No, I don't think I feel fair.
I know, you get time, your life back. Okay, well, thank you for being here. Thanks for your participation, for those who provided input. Check out our booth, 533, and our sessions in this room primarily tomorrow, I think solely in this, and our listening sessions as well. But thank you, appreciate it. Oh, yeah.
Got into the test run today, early this morning.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.